welcome back to Eclipse Monday, which is all BS, but that's a whole other, whole other thing. Let's jump right in because he's on the road. It's Mondays with Morley. How are you, Morley?
There I am. Okay.
Where are you?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. Okay, Fort Lauderdale. You're speaking, I would assume?
I will be, but we're also here just taking advantage of some very innovative technology down here.
Nice. Very cool. Did you try watching the sun dim out?
I looked out the window. I don't think the sun changed at all when we were here. It was just like, what? This was a big nothing burger. It's like,
So, can I throw some science at you?
I can't wait.
This has been bothering me for so long. Because
Yeah.
I really don't necessarily believe we're in a flat Earth. I think that's a little psyopy too. Um,
Yeah.
however, however, when there's a full moon at night, it's in my eastern side of where I live. When it's a new moon, it's in the western side, and we watch it regularly, like because it's like we have a
Right.
wide open sky when I walk out my front door. So we have a back porch. We look at it, like and you know, with healthcare, we definitely like we notice where it is, right?
Right.
So they're trying to tell us, Morley, that it's a new moon today, which it's a new moon.
Right.
Okay. Well, then a new moon would be in the
Should be
west,
over there.
would be in my western sky.
It wasn't there.
So so how is it that today the sun is at the top of the ceiling and something's passing through it, right? Like, and I'm going, but that's not, it doesn't do that because the new moon would be in the western sky at night because when it comes out of new moon, you can see the little crescent over there, right? And then it slowly goes over
Sure.
to the other side. So, and this is, here's the crazy part. The sciencey people do not do well with this. Like we started posting some stuff on X and things like that. And they're like, don't you understand basic physics, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, no, we do understand basic physics. And that's the problem because this doesn't make any sense. And then Morley, if it's the sun's up in the middle of the top of the sky, why don't you see the moon approaching it?
Wow. That's heavy.
Right? But
Yeah.
and they're like,
Right.
well, because the reflection and there's no light and it's hitting the backside of the moon, you would still see it coming in. It's not gonna go from invisible to all of a sudden it's taking up in front of the moon and then it goes to the other side, it goes invisible again. That's not illogical.
So you think this is the whole thing's a psyops?
I believe, based on just my research the last several years and then kind of looking at it today, so you know there's a patent for an artificial sun.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so
No.
there's actually there's a NASA patent for an artificial sun. I believe they have put an artificial projection of a sun in our sky that something passes through, not the moon, and our real sun is behind that. I think it's like a galactic center or something like that. I don't know all the details, but it makes no sense of why this thing slides in and then goes to the other side. Like that doesn't, it has to be it acts as though the sun that we think is the sun is a projection. That's how it would act. Almost like you have a flashlight and then something dark
Right.
passes in front of it,
Right.
right? That doesn't make any sense. That's just, right?
That's pretty heavy.
Well, and did you ever watch the Hunger Games movies?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not seen let's see, which one is it? It's Catching Fire. I've not seen this one, but there's a clip which I'll send it to you where I think at the
Yeah.
end of it, I don't know what happens because I don't know the movie, but she basically shoots an arrow into the sky and it keeps going up and all of a sudden it hits something and you see the scaffolding of the fake sky start falling, almost like the Truman Show.
You gotta love it.
It's yeah, I don't, man. It's you'd understand what I'm like. Not this necessarily this topic, but like it messes. Like I just can't believe what we're being told, and then like you see the
Right.
masses going. And by the way, today chemtrail heaven everywhere, like all over
Oh my God. Right,
how
right. I
bad
knew
was it
about
there?
that. It more measured than I expected it would be, but I've heard that it's been heavy in a lot of places.
Yeah.
North Carolina's been horrible the last few weeks.
Yeah, I woke up this morning and we have a painted sky. I'm really surprised that we actually had clear enough skies you could see the sun, but it was painted all morning.
Interesting. Yeah, but that did not exist down here in Fort Lauderdale.
Unreal. Well, how are you, sir?
Um, ever, ever intrigued by the world we live in.
Oh,
Um, we don't know what's real anymore. Not maybe we never knew what was real. The whole thing, maybe the whole thing is artificial.
I don't
Maybe we are just living a Truman Show and just now
I don't
waking up
think a
to the.
majority I don't think a majority I really the more I uncover this, I really morely don't think a majority get to the end because I don't think they can handle it.
No. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. It's so overwhelming, and I mean, I know people that can't handle the truth about their nutrition.
100%.
So
100%.
then you start talking about the judicial system, and then you start talking about the banking, and then you start talking about, well, maybe the whole world of astronomy is just it's like that's
Well,
too much for them.
so it's funny you say that because and I know you're friends with somebody and I'm not bashing, but there's an interesting statement here. So what I'm seeing is some people went to some seminar, I don't know what it was. And and now they're all saying, "Oh my gosh, we have all the answers. Everyone just needs to put a nicotine patch on their arm right now." And I'm like, "But and I'm not saying that there isn't a need for nicotinic acid, but like can we put the copper back in
Right?
first?"
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Absolutely. Um, I was talking with a colleague who is developing a supplement, and he shared the formula with me today. There's 50 milligrams of zinc.
I bet you
That's,
love that.
well, and of course, it had vitamin D in it. So, so we've had some very interesting discussion about that.
I'm sure you
And
did.
well, it's just again, there's what
How do you approach that from a Morley standpoint when a friend of yours has something you don't necessarily agree in it, but they're a friend, you don't how do you handle something like that? Because we have vitamin D stuff, we have vitamin D in some of our products, and I tell people, hey, it's like a lot of our stuff is whole food, so it's a whole herb that's in
right.
there. I'm like I'm not going to get around that. We're just not going to do synthetics.
Yeah, I think that's the first threshold. Is let's make sure there's nothing synthetic, and then make sure that there's a balance between A and D,
Right.
and then um, I think what the real threshold was, let's make sure there's copper. If you're going to have zinc, you got to have copper.
Right.
And and so the scientist down in Australia got involved. Like, who is this masked man? And he was willing to capitulate on the amount of zinc. That's like, that's fine. That's great. Um, it's just there's a lot of misperception about how important certain minerals are, and it's hard to get around that, as you well know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a we have so Morley, I have more and more people coming in. Just last week, two people, one on the not older, but like on the middle age side, one on the young side. Morley, the
Yep.
disease are skyrocketing up, and it's getting younger and younger people.
Sure, I believe that.
And I'll be honest with you, and it's even unvaccinated people. It's not people that have had the latest crap. Um,
Right.
where young people degenerative diseases, and they're starting to get concerned of like, where did this come from? What is happening? Why do I have this? It's honestly getting pretty alarming because I mean, we're seeing this almost reverse evolution, you know, where you should be seeing, oh my gosh, good, people are getting better and better. We're going, wait a second, why am I seeing you younger? Why are you 20s and you have a neurodegenerative disease? This is not okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've not experienced that. I've not witnessed that. Um, I'm certainly it's certainly plausible, and obviously by your own example, you're experiencing it. But what's your theory? What do you think is going on?
Um, without without sounding biased, because I know that there's not always agreements behind the scene, and I know you don't care if we agree on every little thing because we agree on the majority.
Yeah,
Because I'm trying not to be biased because I've interviewed a lot of people lately that I think it's connected to. I think one, the glyphosate is more toxic than I fully understood.
absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
Two, I think I don't even think it's a COVID thing of COVID vaccine. I'm going to throw that to the side because I think that's an anomaly. I think the other one is the increase in rise from the 90s to 2000s forward of the childhood vaccine schedule. I think that's an alarming situation, meaning because I only grew up with
Yep.
a couple. My wife and I only had a couple, right? Like we didn't have,
I had right. Yeah.
but I think from the 90s forward is when it started skyrocketing. And I think that right now, I think it's a glyphosate and a childhood vaccine schedule problem. And then I think maybe after that, you have a water system problem, maybe a medication problem, something like that. But could be the synthetic sprayed on our food other than glyphosate. But I think those two. What are your thoughts?
Those would be my first two, but I think there's also the
And
sugars being added.
yep,
People don't realize the kind of sugars that are being added to their food.
agreed.
And then the third is the antibiotics that we've been
Yes,
exposed to.
I was going to
Are,
add that once you started talking. I'm like, wait, antibiotics. That's the other one.
right. And people don't realize what the target is in all these chemicals. So,
one Hundred
but
percent.
it's very disheartening to hear about younger people getting degenerative conditions. That's a breakdown of metabolism.
Multiple sclerosis is jumping like high. It's jumping up statistically. And when I say MS, I'm not talking about just like some markers. I'm talking about they're having the symptoms in their 20s, Morley, as in like they're having to go on medications to hold it off.
So, do you know how to make myelin?
How to make myelin? Copper and fat, cholesterol would be my two go-tos.
That's it. You got it. Okay. Got it. You got to have energy. Got to have energy, and you've got to have cholesterol. That's all.
Here's my concern on that. I agree. I tend to be a radical mindset. I already know that. I'm a Libra, so I'm a all in, all out personality sometimes, and I have to work on that. My wife is constantly like, can't, you're not all in, you're not all like, just I'm an extreme, right? Well, this is the reason I say this is.
It's fun to hear you say it, though. That's
Oh,
great.
I know it. I mean, I already here, but here's my thing. How do I voice this? It's a how do we get in more copper? How do we get in more cholesterol without overdoing it? Because I go to a point where I'm like, okay, then we have to just slam you with copper. That's how, you know what I mean? That's how I get.
Don't forget that what is going to suppress copper metabolism is too much iron.
Correct.
And
So
most
get the
and
iron
most
out.
people, you got to get the iron in. Right.
So not so much to me because I tend to be like, let's just pound you with copper. Let's pound you with fat. Let's pound you with cholesterol. I have to remember, okay, how do we get this iron out? Because that's what's actually holding down the copper.
Exactly. And that's the genius of Jamie Collins at University of Florida.
I should go over and visit Jamie Collins since I'm near Gainesville.
He No, he would jump at the chance.
Really?
He no, a buddy of mine, dentist, NMD from Indiana, called him up out of the blue. I mean,
Really?
I made an introduction. They had a lovely conversation. A buddy of mine who's an Amish medical doctor called him up out of the blue. Jamie spent like an hour talking to this guy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So he's very open-minded and very willing to share his gifts. So I went through,
Maybe I would set up or I'd actually just drive over there and do a live with them.
oh, he would love that. He would jump at that.
That'd be cool.
Really. Yeah. Um, or do maybe we do a three-way. That'd be fun
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's not a hard drive to make at all. It's easy.
No. No, he's a very accessible, gifted scientist.
Plus, my wife would not be upset by making a trip to her alma mater. She loved her time at
Of
University of
course.
Florida.
Sure. It's a beautiful campus.
It is
Gorgeous.
fun. It's a fun place.
Yeah.
They mean well over there. Plus, they've actually they threw out all the woke ideology. They're getting rid of all the crap.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got rid of.
That's a cool.
They had a whole DEI wing. They axed the whole thing.
I'm sorry. I'm not very PC. I'm
No,
forgive me.
it's great. That's what I'm saying. When I found out, I as soon as I found out they axed the whole diversity wing, I sent it over to my wife and I go, University of Florida, one of the first one on the map. It made her very very happy because she's
Sure. Yeah.
one of those rare ones that appreciates her alma mater. She loves going to University of Florida.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the big research breakthrough just today was to learn what PEMF really does for our physiology. It's fascinating to learn.
So tell everybody because we know a lot of people big in the PMF.
So pulsed
Yep.
EMFs, right? Um, it increases electron flow, changes the uh, ionic ionic concentration on the membrane. But what it also does is it increases blood flow,
Okay.
increases ATP production, increases the sodium potassium pumps that are critical all over the body, and it it's fascinating to begin to piece together. Well, how do we begin to harness that kind of technology? And it's just I think it's going to be. I would predict it's going to be the breakthrough for all the problems that you're talking about. Because I think really what we're witnessing is a chronic breakdown in energy production in people's body. And
Agreed.
that's really, that's what the glyphosate and all these other factors are robbing us of our ability to make energy,
Um,
peak energy, optimal energy.
Maybe PEMF is one of our modalities to help get this chronic and this reversal going of these young people. I mean, let's get the cardiovascular system moving. Let's get the electrons moving.
Well, yeah, and I think are there variations of that are needed that are stronger to accelerate that process? So I think that to me, for the longest time, all of this malaise that we're having worldwide it's an energy crisis, and I'm not worried about the enemies. I'm worried about the energy. That's really what as you know, I really am very preoccupied by that.
Interesting. I
It's just
understand.
getting people to recognize that is critical.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
More education.
Relentless.
Relentless. Did you ever think you'd really understand the idea of relentless at this point? I mean, it's
No. No. I never imagined there would be so much resistance to the truth.
I don't disagree. And you know what? Um, not to put an attention on the thing today because it's not necessarily meaningful in our conversation, but it is from a understanding and from a standpoint of topics. So whether it's today talking about the moon and getting attacked by the sciencey people, it's so funny. You say something about
Yeah.
this and they're like, "Oh, you're a chiropractor. That means you don't understand the science of physics and the light." And I'm like, so whether it's that or it's copper or it's talking about parasites in my world, of course, it's fascinating. Any of these topics that are brought up, Morley, they're attacked. Your background, just like your background is attacked. Like
Yeah.
how dare you, like how dare a Morley go after copper when he's not a doctor, he's not a this,
Yeah.
which I'm sure I
Hey,
know
at
you've
least you
had.
got an education. I'm just self-taught. At least you got a certificate
No, I
or
know, but
diploma, excuse me.
but they go,
Yeah.
it's interesting when you bring up these topics. I brought up glyphosate, and they're like, "You're not in farming, you're not in agriculture. How could you like? Why are you like? What does that have to do with anything? Like the fact, like we're just reading. That's what we're doing, right? These areas of education, Morley, get attacked by them, no matter who they are.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. And it's so orchestrated. That's what's so unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
It's it happens with such precision that that's what makes me nervous. Is it isn't a, a random response. It's like it's part of an orchestrated attack.
Manufactured almost.
No, it is. That's what it feels like anyway. Um, and so a buddy of mine, uh, who's he's a former body worker, wellness coach, and he was checking up on my uh, podcast with certain celebrated people. I'll just leave it at that. And I said, "Well, those are all shut down." He goes, "What?" I said, "They won't touch me now." He said, "You got to be kidding!" He could not believe it. I said, "Dude," I said, I'm dangerous now." And I mean, he got a good laugh out of it, but it's like I think we're bumping up against some big agenda or something that I don't know whether it's real or not, but it just sort of feels like it.
I have pushed for 8 years now, and not to say that others haven't pushed longer than that, but
Yeah,
myself, just noticing my own world, I pushed for 8 years, and it's interesting where there's growth, but there's not growth like there originally was, and honestly, every time I get frustrated with it, I get this little voice that kicks in, and the voice is, just wait, there's something bigger, and I'll be honest with you, and that's not a ooh look at me thing. It's a, you're right, the agenda to hold back what we're trying to educate on is so big right now. The shadow banning, the pushing back, the censoring is so big. However, the only thing I know to do is to keep going little by little,
oh,
and
totally.
just
Yeah.
expecting that is like, you know how it is when the universe, this is the universe. I know that we just keep putting in the work, and some point it starts
Right.
blowing up, but it's taxing getting to that spot, knowing, okay, just next step, next step. It's annoying, next step, next step. You know what I mean?
Well, what was really critical for me was a conversation we had about a month ago, and you said it's time to pivot. Once you said that it's time to pivot, I knew exactly what to do. But I was tied up in knots, thinking about, oh, woe is me. No, it's time to pivot. I just took all the stress out of the dynamic, and it's like life goes on. You move a different direction.
It's true. So it's interesting you bring that up. Let me give you some positivity in this, okay?
Yeah.
My wife had some students in last month, and I got there, and there's a chiro in Tennessee. I'm not going to go into too deep how much it is until I'm given permission to kind of like release what's going on. But a chiro in Tennessee says, "Hey, would you like to come and speak at a local event?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So I put that on the schedule, which I did not have at the time. I just decided on a whim on a Friday night
Yeah.
about a month ago. Then out of nowhere, Morley, I get and this is that voice. It just says the voice tells me, Morley, and when I say the voice, obviously I don't have a voice in my head. I call it the God voice, right? That
Yeah, of
consciousness
course.
is telling you to keep
Yeah.
going, right? The
Right.
consciousness it just says keep going. Keep going. So all I'm doing is following the rules and the instructions I'm given by the voice that I know is a good voice, right?
Right.
So then I get an email out of nowhere. And I know you get this stuff too. I get an email out of nowhere saying, "Hey, I heard you on another show. I'm out of Alaska and they're on an Indian reservation. And the Indians, Morley, the Indians have totally been not bought out, but just the veil was put over their eyes. They're all eating crappy food." And this guy goes,
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy goes, "We need to educate them," to the point where he said, "Send me video clips. I'll play them on the radio." He goes, "I'm a producer for a radio station up here. We'll just start blanketing the airwaves with the information." Then today I got another email out of nowhere through one of our messaging systems that somebody wants to start talking to the Amish, and they're like inviting me to speak up there. And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's gonna start! It's gonna start! Like,
Beautiful. That's great.
just
No, that's where the
just keep
opportunity
working,
is.
Morley, just like you are."
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was supposed to be in a meeting a couple weeks ago with the Amish, and at the last minute I couldn't do it. And guess what they did?
What?
They canceled the meeting and they said, "When can you make it?"
Really?
Yeah, because they're going to build the meeting around my message.
This
So
is the
it's
way
like,
forward.
yeah, no, I was like, I was really humbled by that. So, so that'll be in June.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Have
So I
fun.
have one. I have Tennessee in May now, and then I have the other one. I think is in June, and it sounds like it's gonna be Pennsylvania area. I don't know.
Oh, is that Amish?
I think so. I don't know all the details. It was just reached out to me today. So I kind of want the Alaska one to turn to a speak event because I've always wanted to go to Alaska.
Man, I'll carry your bags if you get that one.
I told my wife, I'm like, I know it's a haul and it's like really far, but Alaska, it just sounds like so much fun.
Well, you want to be there in June or July. That's
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
I mean, don't you just want to see the wildlife alone?
Oh, my cousin, uh, his name is Bodie, Bodi
Yep.
Nelson. Google him on Facebook. He's got some phenomenal photography,
Yeah.
and this is just in the last like 6 years of his life. He's transformed into this world-renowned wildlife photographer, specializing in Kodiak bears up in Alaska and spirit bears and other parts of the world. It's like the guy's become this legend. I'm like, dude, what happened to you? It's just he does foxes and bears are his two
Oh,
specialties, and the photography is phenomenal.
you
Absolutely amazing photography.
you'll get me all like, I'll have to book an Alaska flight just to quench the.
Yeah, and he goes up. They drop him in the middle of nowhere, and he'll be up there for 2 or 3 weeks. He's got pictures of bears like 6 feet away from him. I'm like, dude, are you sure you're okay?
That's terrifying. Oh my gosh. So
Yeah, no,
you're out of town. Are you speaking at all? Refresh my memory.
no, it's more of a pleasure, and think of it as a medical vacation. So
Okay.
Dr. Liz is getting some treatments
Just
down here as well.
Okay, good,
just
good.
enjoying it.
Getting some health. That's good. I like this.
Getting some health, right?
Um,
Exactly.
you also did a. You also read a study on heart failure and iron metabolism.
Oh my God. They were giving iron infusions for people with congestive heart failure. It's
Ah,
like
it's
that's like
horrible.
throwing that's like throwing an anvil to someone who's struggling with water. They're drowning, and you throw them an anvil. But what was the saving grace of the study was the phrase. Oops, get my camera right. They introduced me to a very important phrase: the difference between absolute iron deficiency and functional iron deficiency. And that's the operative problem.
Okay.
The vast majority of people around the world have a functional iron deficiency. They do not have an absolute. And so they're being treated as though absolute is the only problem, and it's not. And that's where the crisis is.
Hmm.
You just
Fascinating.
disappeared. Are you still
I'm still
there?
here.
You
I'm
are.
still.
Oh,
I had to take
okay.
my sweatshirt off. It was getting to be too much.
All right. Okay.
So absolute versus functional.
So absolute is that there's just insufficient iron in the body or in the
Okay.
diet. Functional is it's not being recycled properly.
Right.
It's not it's not making it out of the spleen, or it's not making it to the bone marrow to be made into new red blood cells. And again, people don't appreciate the order of magnitude, 2.5 million red blood cells a second. And it's just the numbers are just mind-boggling. And if you don't understand that, and you don't, it just takes a little bit of iron to support that system. And so you don't need a sledgehammer. You just need the right kind of diet, but you've got to have copper in your diet, especially.
I'm getting a
That's
lot.
where people miss it. Go
I'm
ahead.
getting a lot of people to get mineral tests done. So my question is, you've seen like the mineral circle or the mineral wheel online where it says like this
Yeah.
one is associated with
One
this
of
one.
those.
This okay.
Right.
When their iron is high or when their iron is off, their copper is down. What other things or what other minerals might we see out of balance that they might recognize?
They're taking too much zinc,
Too much. So zinc will be high.
guarantee it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so they might have too much calcium.
Okay.
Calcium's going calcium's going to get in the way of the iron metabolism. They probably don't. They're going to be a more typical pattern is going to be a lot of D supplementation,
Yep.
which is going to kill vitamin A. Well, you can't make transferrin if you don't have vitamin A.
Okay.
So then that's a critical transport mechanism to communicate between the spleen and the bone marrow. Well, the average person doesn't know that, and certainly the average practitioner doesn't know that. And so the focus on vitamin D has shut down iron recycling. So then it looks low, right?
Yep.
So then you need an infusion, right?
Right.
And then we introduced Jamie Collins to the situation. He's like, well, there's no, you put all this iron in, you just killed the copper. How would you expect that there would be any kind of recycling if there's no copper? If it's not functional. If the copper can't function, then the iron can't function. And it's like, hopefully that makes sense. Because
It
it's like
does.
it's
Again, it's an
it's
education. It's an education gradient.
well, it's I think the key is we're back to Alvin Toffler. You've got to let go of your education and start over. The crisis we have is to unlearn and relearn,
True.
and that a lot of people don't want to take the time to do that. Yeah.
That unlearning
So
man, we're not even We're not even remotely close to the learning process, Morley.
No, not if we're
You know,
not aware that
think
there's
about
a
that. You're trying to teach, and we hit this wall because we are not yet at the learning process.
no. And the challenge I face with folks who come through the program, especially practitioners, is that they want to stuff the the copper stuff on top of all the insanity that they learned in whatever program they went to. And like, it doesn't work that way. You got to let go of what you think the solution is. This is a whole different way of thinking, and that's in stressful times. People don't like to do that,
Correct.
and we do live in very stressful times, right?
Morley, they don't even know how stressed they are yet.
Well, I think that's a good point. I I think I would say that we're under greater stress now than we were in 2020 because it's more insidious.
Yes.
It's more it's more hidden. Back in 2020, we knew what we were battling. We thought we knew what we were battling. Now,
Right.
it's like it's wearing an invisibility cloak, and we don't know it. And that's our challenge, is having to deal with that stark reality of stress that we're not even aware of.
I would agree. I would agree. Absolutely.
And it's hard to have conversations with people about it. I mean, this is like a giant. This is better than any psychologist I've ever spent time with, is talking with you, because it's like, because there's no judgment. We can be as candid and as honest as we want, and we're helping other people, but we're validating, or in some situations maybe refining what we know, but it's taking the sting out of life, like that right now. Life is just, I think it's insane right now.
I told my wife, I said, you know what? I could spend not full time as in like 40 plus hours because that would be exhausting, but I go, we really just need to spend as much time as possible now basically giving seminars, creating content. I mean, I told my wife the other day, I said, you know what? I tend to be a morning person. I think you're a morning person too, aren't you?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
go, you know what?
absolutely.
I think I might start or pilot soon. Maybe once or twice a week to start with. I'm not gonna do every day necessarily, but like once, twice a week, do a 30-minute morning show only because I'm raring and
Great
ready to go in
idea.
the morning. I'm raring and ready to go. Grab the coffee, sit down, take a quick
Yeah,
topic, and not long because people aren't doing long anymore. They're just they just it's too much data, right? 30 minutes where you do a 10 or 15-minute segment on a health topic and just start giving.
but let me just comment on that. I think that's a great format. I think it's a really wonderful idea. But there's a social construction of reality now that we have to speak in sound bites
Yep.
because we're so stressed out. And that's a very dangerous dynamic for human civilization.
Agreed.
Where we've got to be able to let our hair down and have an extended conversation to get past the veneer of the bullshit.
Agreed.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, this idea that I had someone say, "Oh, I want to do a podcast with you, but my format's 30 minutes." I said, I, I don't do that.
How
So
would
they
you do
changed their format.
how would you do
They
30
changed their
minutes?
format. You can't, you can't do it. You can't do it. So they've changed their format for me.
Yeah, yeah, there's I've had people where I'll do 30 minutes because I'm like, okay, we can do this in 30 minutes. But then there's people where I'm like, I can't. I've talked to them behind the scenes. I'm like, I can't do 30 with you. And they'll be like, well, that's what I'm used to doing. I'm like, with the topic you're taking in, I need an hour just to ask even basic questions. Like,
Right.
that's too in depth of a subject.
And I think the two things that are dumbing down the world are what's new and keep it keep it short.
Right. Yeah.
What's new?
No, I agree.
No. It's like, who cares about what's new? Let's talk about what's enduring.
100%.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
I understand. I understand. Well, I know you're on the road. Anything else that is a good take home for today for everybody?
um I I think people just need to take a nice long walk.
I like that.
Yeah. And just sit with themselves or be with themselves and know that it's all going to be okay.
Agreed.
Yeah. And it's I don't think we have enough quiet time like that.
I would agree with that.
And so it's just, I think, when I think of the amount of foment that was generated over Eclipse Day,
Oh God.
and now we find out that and now we find out there's another sun up there, maybe. And it's like, I don't know, it's like, there's so much pressure to have this artificial threshold of change. It's like, it may be 10 years from now. Who
Sure.
knows?
Could be.
We just have to we have to calm down and just be willing to accept the situation.
I would agree. I would agree.
And what advice would you have? What would you recommend?
What would I recommend? I recommend people do what, for example, you and I would do, or my wife would do, or colleagues of us would do, which is, and I actually might try this again because we did it in 2020. It worked really well, which is hold like, not necessarily seminars, but hold like summits where, I really enjoyed watching people sit down at their computer. I wish it was in person, but down at their computer, get a notebook out, and they were doing what like I would do or you would do or my wife would do, what we've done forever, which is get a notebook, sit down, and just start writing my own notes while I'm listening to somebody's seminar. And I saw a joy in that for people because that they were learning, and I'm like, and people were like, this is wonderful. And I go, this is what we've been doing. This is what we do. This is nothing new to us. And I go, I'm not watching a bunch of TV at night. I'll sit down and watch a video and take notes, or a seminar on the weekend to take notes online. Like that's kind of our entertainment, if that makes sense. And I seeing people change to that.
That makes perfect sense. So, whenever you want to start a summit series, let's make it happen.
Let's do it. I want you to be safe on the road, take in some nature, and just be
Yes.
restful,
Yep.
relaxed, and serenity. How about that?
That's exactly what we plan to do.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I appreciate your
it.
time today.
Likewise. I mean, I kid you not. I value these exchanges immensely. I hope people on the other end do as well. I think
Oh,
they
they
do,
are.
but yeah.
They are. They absolutely are. They absolutely are. Tell your lovely wife, Dr. Liz, we said hello. And
Absolutely. I will.
you guys have an enjoyable trip, okay?
Thank you. And stay safe. And we'll trade notes with our meetings with the Amish.
Will do. I love it. For Morley, it's Dr. Dean. This is Brave TV. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.